Okay, we're good.
Thank you. I'll bring the meeting to order, and I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight. From what I can see, so we can move forward with a full board. We sent a request to the council asking for a joint meeting, and we found out on Tuesday that was accepted, and there was going to be work to make that happen on Tuesday, February 21st, in a workshop prior to the regular council meeting. So as a result of that, I asked, and you guys have all agreed because you're here, that it was important for us to meet and discuss how we would like to approach this meeting, make clear what our goals are for the meeting and during the meeting and the outcome of the meeting, and then set our talking points for the meeting as well. So that's the purpose for the meeting. Before we get any further though, I'd like to welcome anyone who is on Zoom and the audience members, and ask if there is a public comment or anyone that would like to comment before we go any further. Okay.
And I did not receive any written comments
No.
prior to the meeting.
Okay. Anybody on Zoom, Shandy? Would like to comment?
I don't have anyone in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
I'll let you know in the next 30 seconds.
Okay.
If it pops up.
Thank you. All right, so I sent out a list of some talking points, but I would like everyone to weigh in and kind of give your point of view, what you would like to get accomplished today, tonight, and as we prepare for our meeting. So we start with you, Mr. Bob Scotto.
Excuse me. Okay, a couple things. I liked the framework that you put in place in the email of potential topics. I think we have to be very focused on what bullets we want to discuss. In going back, over a lot of the meetings, I wasn't involved with, with the board or the council. There's a lot of activity around the ordinance. There's a lot of activity around people saying things on both sides, in my perspective, that probably just inflamed the other side. And what I'm concerned about, and my overriding view here, is that we have to be very focused on what we'd like to accomplish in this workshop. The workshop was asked for multiple times by several of the council members. It was talked about in, I think, at least 3 meetings where it was to be a joint workshop. But up to this point, until we requested it last week, all of the workshops and all of the discussion has strictly been in the council meetings or in the council workshop where the council had all the input, and there really wasn't any input from anyone else other than in citizen comments. So I think we have to be, we have to take the high road, if you will, or the high ground, and say, we want to talk about what it is you're trying to accomplish with the ordinance, what are the ramifications of this change, and how do we separate what is really 2 issues, which is the ability to weigh in on the book collection policy and the book, or whatever we call it, the reconsideration policy. Okay, and just the whole idea of overseeing or having oversight over all of the things that the board does. There are 2 separate issues that have been conflated by all of this discussion, and somehow we have to understand and the way you put it in the email in terms of points, what questions are we going to ask? Okay, and then what are we hoping to get, or what are we looking for at the end of getting the answers to those questions? I would hope that the council has a similar, approach to it, a set of questions, and we, I think, from the last several meetings, know what they're looking for, which is change the ordinance. But I think we just have to, I'm concerned that we have to be very careful and that we have to not go down a path of saying, you want to do this, we want to do that, and where we're butting heads. We need to find a way that, and the way I wrote it down in one of my notes was, we need to find a way to move forward where we all have the same set of expectations, that we're all communicating with each other, with each member of the team or each group, that, we establish expectations for transparent communication, and that everybody knows what those expectations are. And then, we need to, and this is under the guise of look fors, we need to know what steps need to be taken to resolve this. Right now, it's like, okay, now you get to talk. What steps are going to be taken? Does this go further? Does it become an ordinance change? What part of the ordinance gets changed? Because just throwing it in section 6 doesn't necessarily seem to be, a solution, at least, again, in my newness looking at it. And then, once we do that, I guess I'm just concerned about how we put the order together. Because when I looked at the questions, it really, you had asked Brad about, or one of the things you had said is we need to say how we got. And to me, it's kind of like how we got here is the first set of points. Why the board did what it did and how they got to the policy and all of the research and 6 months worth of work that I didn't have to do, that you all did. How did that get us to the policy? And then, the other way, and then that was kind of like define the situation. So I think it's open for discussion, but I don't know if you want to define the situation first and say, this is how we got here, or you want to take the policy and talk about this is how we came up with the policy, and then go into how we got here. That's where I'm struggling in terms of that. But and then the other thing, your list of questions, and I can pass this out if you want, but I basically keep coming back to, I'm not sure we want to go down the path of what's happened over, since October 18th. I think if we go there, we run the risk of furthering this, us versus them, which I don't think we want. And I think we're finally getting the meeting that we get to say and provide input and ask them questions. And we need to concentrate on it that way. That's
Okay, thank you.
my focus.
Okay, Shauna, thank you.
I have a citizen comment. If you guys don't mind, Tim got kicked out of the meeting and then now he's back in. Can you give a citizen comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, Tim, if you have a citizen comment, we're ready.
Great, thank you. Sorry, it's my, you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, sorry about that. And I agree with what Pat's saying here. I just wanted to make sure that I look forward to the trustees and all your hard work to get on the same page as city council, period. I just want to make sure that we recognize where I think the city council is coming from. And I think Jenny brought up a point, gosh, this must have been 4 or 5 months ago, that never really even fazed me, which I feel guilty of saying this, but the outspoken members of city council are more interested in morality versus legality. I spoke last time at the city council meeting. I reminded the city council members of their obligation to uphold the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States protects the 7 and 8-year-olds in our library with the freedom to be able to read items they want to read. We can't create laws that are going to help with parenting. I just think that we need to make sure we have policies in place that do not take away the kids that have the rights to what they want to explore in the library. I didn't agree with this book. I found the pictures terrible. But in my limited time and my capacity I had there, I voted to keep it on the shelf. I don't know that the city council members would agree with that. Furthermore, I think that opens us up to potential legal liabilities if they don't. So I completely applaud you guys. I want to continue to support you because I believe the work you're doing is phenomenal and you've done so much work. The only thing that the council seems to be focused on right now is the morality. And unfortunately, the laws don't cover morality. We know that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much for those comments. Appreciate it. Okay, John, give us your perspective on tonight, what we want to accomplish.
Yes. I think that for tonight, what I'd like to see us accomplish is what is our goals with the meeting on Tuesday and what are our talking points.
Well, sorry. Okay. Can you back off that one? Okay, I'm just gonna speak very loudly because I don't know where my mic is on. That was my question too, is our goal and intention to convince the 4 majority members on the council that they don't need to change the ordinance by showing all the work we've done to create a robust policy that should be outside of the influence of political and personal opinion? Or is it to say, okay, this is happening, so going forward, how do we work as a board with you? Those are what
Yeah,
I'm
and I
asking.
think we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah,
I think that my goals for, what we're going to talk about tonight versus what the goals are for tonight are 2 separate issues. And the question you had asked is, what are my goals tonight? My goals tonight are to determine how we want to be in this workshop. And I'm assuming, even though it is a city council workshop, which is usually just run by the city council and no public input, I'm assuming that this is a joint meeting where both parties are coming to the table equally.
Yes, the plan is to have literally tables so that we're in a big square, if that makes sense.
Right.
Oh.
My discussion with the mayor has been that there will be tables. We'll have however many tables we need to be so we can sit across them at the same level, so that they're not up here and we're not down there.
Yeah.
Because that sets a tone to begin with, and I asked for that not to happen. And so did Jan asked for that to not happen. So, and the mayor didn't want it to happen. So,
Yeah.
so that's how that will go. And like I said earlier, it's really important that we come in with a list of talking points that are given to both sides, both parties, so that we can stick to the talking point, resolve whatever that talking point, however it needs to be resolved before moving on to the next talking point. That's how I think it should operate. But, we're all here together to work together to try to come up with that plan.
is the city attorney going to be there?
Yes,
Pardon me?
The city attorney will be there.
yes.
Yes.
Sean has to attend all council meetings. Sometimes he is via Zoom, so that's why the chair was empty, but yes.
There is one caveat though, and that is that I don't believe that on workshops, all council members are required to be there. I don't believe that's the case. I mean, they can not come into the workshop and then still be here for the, I might be wrong, but that's what I've observed in the past, that there have been some that didn't make it to the workshop that show up for the 7 o'clock meeting. So that may happen, and we just need to be prepared to know that could happen. Hopefully.
Okay, so
Yeah, so I just, that's my goal for the meeting
I
tonight.
got it. Michael.
Might as
Go ahead.
well establish our talking points in our plan for the joint meeting.
Okay,
For me, I had,
I
put
saw your,
together
yeah,
some things that I would like to talk about.
sure.
Primarily, I do think that we need to create a joint public statement that, addresses mischaracterizations that are made about the board and our decisions on an unsanctioned community Facebook page by a council member. Primarily for documentation purposes, but also because re-elections happen in November, I feel like citizens need to know what's actually happening. And then also, I have questions for the city specifically, if the same level of their proposed control and oversight also exists on other agencies, commissions, and boards within the city, or if this is a specific thing to just the library. Because if that's not the case, then why is it specific to the library? Because I know that the council members who voted to change the ordinance have stated multiple times, this is not about banning books. It's not about the book. It's about being held accountable to their constituency because they're elected officials, even though 2 of them are appointed. So 3 are appointed.
And the others
So,
ran
and they're also for
unopposed.
re-election in November. So, with that being said, I want to know if it's not about the book, then why is this
Then why is it?
happening just to our board and not the Parks and Planning Commission and the other agencies within the city's purview?
I think those are questions that when we make our list of questions, those are things that we can add to that and talk about them.
And I know, yes, I want to establish, okay, going forward, what does this look like? Because if the majority does agree to continue to change the ordinance, add the words, those 5 little words of, having their approval over policy, does that entail everything that includes book fines, the fact that we're switching over to the Dewey Decimal System? We just added a 15 minutes, you don't show up to the meeting room and then you're out policy, like, because if that's the case, we're in meeting for 3 hours once a month and we can bring that to the council meeting. It will extend the time here, but they can look at everything that we do.
And there are rules, there are things that Jandy does that set rules for the library, like every time she has a training, she has to close it for 4 hours for that training. Does the city cancel? These I think are all questions that we need to ask if the ordinance is if they're proposing to go.
If their proposal is to continue to bring it up for
Yeah.
vote, then I think we go down then we have a list of questions that we need to get. So here's what I hear from everybody. First of all, we need to set our goals for the meeting. So I'm going to put it out there and then we can narrow. I don't want a list. This is me speaking. You guys can, tell me that. But this is me speaking. I don't think we need 40 goals. I don't think we need 10 goals. But I think the goal is pretty simple, but it needs to be well stated and it needs to be concise. So, anybody, I think we need to know.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
One talking point that I think is important because, Phil Foyer had mentioned, I feel like the policy came out of nowhere. I think it's important that we do state to them that we spent these 6 months working with the city attorney to identify the policy as stated by the law and all the citations, and also note that 1 council member came to those meetings.
Right.
Those 6 months.
So here's what I'd like to do, Teresa, that helps out. I'd like to set the goals. And then I'd like to set each talking point and then subtitles, subheadings under each talking point as to what we want to have
Okay.
accomplished at that talking point. Is that okay? Okay. So first thing first goal.
I think I see there's 2 goals to this meeting.
Okay.
First one is we don't think the ordinance should change, and this is why. Second is if the ordinance is going to be changed, this is why we need more direction in the 5 little words that they're suggesting.
Okay, so our goal, first goal is to present to them information, and we'll go down, we'll lay that out later. But our first goal is to present information to them as to why we believe the ordinance should not be changed. Would that be a good way of putting it? Okay.
Or do you? I guess I would, I like the way that, you had in the one, suggested topic about, our reasoning for revising the, collection book challenge policy, instead of just saying, this is why we don't think the ordinance should be changed. Get to that point.
But that's
Right.
not just
Okay,
working.
so hang on, one second. These are just our goal. Our goal is to try to present to them reasons, and then we'll go down and we'll put down our reasoning that matches our first goal, which is to present to them why we don't believe the ordinance should be changed. That's just a goal. Then we'll come back and we'll take a look at that goal, and we'll talk about all those things that we just talked, that Bob just brought up, that we need to tell them about how we came, why we revised the policy, how we went about revising the policy, all that kind of stuff, to try to meet that goal. Okay, so that's our first goal. The second goal is what? There should be another goal.
Basically, our feedback if there was an ordinance change.
What then?
Like our feedback on if there was an ordinance change, these things need to be considered.
What would that?
We need more than those 5 little words.
Yes.
So then what does? the
Suggested changes?
Mean in terms of day-to-day
Yes,
business?
yes.
So, but that's asking questions. We want to go, what we want to achieve at the meeting. So the first achievement is to present why the ordinance, why we don't believe the ordinance should be changed. Okay, so that's a goal that we want to achieve, present that to them. There is, see, I had in my mind another goal. Corey, this is the coaching part of me talking.
Yeah.
I always have goals.
We can tell
So,
you're coach.
Yeah, I always like to be prepared walking into a game. So, I always like to have goals in place. So, the other goal, I think, is we need to, our goal is to present things in a concise, professional way to the board, and then allow them to respond. Okay, is that a decent goal? Is that an agreeable goal? And pardon? The council. Yeah, so that we want, that's our goal. So that's 2 goals to try to get there. And try to, I guess there would be another goal in my mind, and that would be to find a way to resolve the problem. That's a goal. How do we work with the council to find a way to resolve the problem? And the problem is that they want to change the ordinance. We don't believe it should be changed.
Let's put it as resolve the matter. That way it's not,
Okay.
we're not saying.
Labeling it a problem. I agree. So the third one will be resolve the matter.
I like the way you said it, find a way to resolve the matter.
Okay, perfect.
So my, but the second, or one of the goals that I had suggested was, if the council is going to continue to go through with the change of the ordinance, then I think that we need to have further discussion of what that change will be, because those 5 letter, what they are calling those 5 little words is not workable. That it would give oversight over bylaws, rules, and regulations. It also doesn't give over policies. Policies are not rules and regulations. It doesn't do what they want to do.
Right.
And it doesn't give us enough direction
Right.
of what we need to bring forward to them. And other libraries have had issues with city councils because of this, and they don't know. Some people want more information, some city councils, it changes, leadership changes, they want less information. It needs to be more clear than just adding those 5 words. So,
Well, in their own meeting, in their own attorney in November 1st said the council, he said it specifically, the council can't just say, we want more oversight.
Right.
He said, it's too general, the ordinance needs to provide specifics.
Right.
5 words that they have oversight doesn't provide specifics on how it works.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
I found a library in Washington where it's spelled out that they have an advisory board and these are the things that they do. I think if they were to make a change, it should include that. And the other thing is, I was reading over the ordinance today, and in section 5, they add their 5 words. In section 7, it then lists some other responsibilities that the board has. And so that seems.
there's a conflict between those two.
Contradicted because it's another paragraph.
Yeah, I've read that as well.
Yeah.
Can I restate can you say your goal again?
Yeah.
The 4th goal would be to,
that if the ordinance change, if the city council continues with changing the ordinance, we would like
Further, just
further
another workshop.
discussion
Yeah.
on what that is involved, because the way it's currently written seems to not address what they wanted to address.
okay, so
And
if they continue with the process of voting on the ordinance amendment, we would request a clarification of our responsibilities going forward. Would that be fair? Okay,
yes, as the agenda was posted about an hour ago, and it does include a first ordinance read. So that means that we will have our joint workshop, but in the 7 o'clock meeting, they will have their first ordinance read. And then they just need to do one more. And if it's all voted on, it's law. So I think we should request a joint workshop, but the reality is we could have the 21st meeting and then the first March meeting, it could be voted on as a second reading and done.
well, it could be if that's what they can, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, they can do that.
I would hope, this is my hope, this whole thing. I've asked, and I've said this many times to the mayor, I've said it to Maggie, I've said it to more than one council member. I want to have dialogue, and you can't get dialogue in community comments, which is where I've been, that's the only place I've been able to respond, and it's always reactionary. I don't like being reactionary, and that's why I asked for us to meet tonight, so we can be proactive in how we go into the meeting. So I hope that's fair. So, having said that, any other comments? Because after we have more comments, I would like to go to our first goal and then make our talking points under the first goal.
My only comment is we need to, amongst ourselves, talk about the order. Okay, because if you're laying out 4 goals, I think we have 4.
Right.
Okay, if your goal is, we tell you why the ordinance should be changed, or why the ordinance should not be changed. And then you say one of our goals is to find a way to resolve the matter.
That's
Which goes first?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so it's kind of like, if goal number 1 is find a way to resolve the matter. Okay, and then goal number 2 is, why don't we think, why we don't think the ordinance should be changed. Goal 3 is the one about, if the ordinance is to be changed, there needs to be further discussion than just the 5 words. The 4th one escapes me.
Yeah, so,
The reiteration of Shauna's number 2.
right,
Twice.
there's a lot that was said there, Teresa. You have,
So I have, I'm gonna put at the top with present information in concise professional manner to allow council to respond. Then I have find a way to resolve the matter. Then I have, the next goal was to not change, if they don't change the ordinance. And then under that are subsections about what we would present the information of why the ordinance should not change, why, how we went about revising the policy in question. And then the next goal, the last goal is if the ordinance has changed, what does that look like going forward? And a subsection of that would be to request an additional meeting before the second reading of the ordinance to go over the day-to-day changes and responsibilities of the board.
Okay. All right, so read the first one more time. I don't think this requires sub bullets. I think it's just a thing we need to have in our head. So go ahead and say it one more time.
Professional manner and allow council time.
Okay, so that's just what we keep in the back of our head or the forefront as we have our conversation. Okay, so number 2.
Find a way to resolve the matter.
Okay, so find a way to resolve the matter. All right, so
I have a thought.
good. We'll open it up to our thoughts and to try to narrow down talking points. You're up, Rita.
So in thinking about the ultimate goal that the core majority have over being held responsible to their voting constituents, and the fact that we are not elected board members, but we are appointed by the city council. And also taking into consideration the fact that it has been said multiple times, this is not about book banning. My thought is, instead of adding those 4 little words to the ordinance, that really the idea could be that the council's primary question, if anything is brought to them about policy or anything we have, is did the library board follow policy as written? Because if they can look at the policies we have written, as they are stated, and our bylaws, and a patron were to come to them and say, I don't agree with this, their primary question that they're answering is, did the library board follow the policies as written? And if the answer is yes, then there's no other matter. If the answer is no, then, okay, we need to address this with the board.
But if they don't like the policy,
That's the thing.
That's
It
where,
was- see, and that's where there's the contradiction of what they're saying. This is not about the book, this is not about the specific policy. And then there's a contradiction to what they're doing. So that's, but that would be my resolution to the matter. It gives them control in oversight to their voting constituency, but it allows the board to act out, to be able to function without political influence.
so if I could respond to that just briefly, and then somebody else can too, but they already have that oversight. We don't have to give them that oversight. They already have that oversight. Because they are the city council. If someone comes to them and they have a problem and say they didn't like the way we handled a certain situation, then they can come to us and ask us for, some clarification and justification.
And that has happened.
And they have that oversight, but this is not about that oversight. This has only occurred in my thinking. This has only occurred because we took them, the revised policy, I won't say we, the revised policy based on all the research, all the input, all the data, remove them from making the final decision on a book challenge. Now, they can, this is one thing, how do you say this in our meeting without ruffling feathers? This is why we're here, because if it's not about book banning, and it's not about the book challenge, then why have they initiated the change to the ordinance? That's the crux of the whole issue in my mind.
That's where my question comes to, do they have this amount of oversight over all the agencies and boards and commissions under the city purview? If the answer is no, then why is it the library if it's not specific?
they've, in council meetings, they have said they do, except for salary commission and police.
And police.
And those are understandable that they don't, because salary commission determines their salaries.
And it has also been said that some things with the planning commission go to a hearing examiner. As well. I just think that if they are asking for consistency among the departments, which is something that was mentioned in the last meeting, then why are they not reviewing those commissions' bylaws or ordinances so that all of our language is the same?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, each department does different things, so it wouldn't be a perfect change, but if there is going to be a change, the planning commission brings these policies forward at these days or these times, why would they not just make that the same for us if they're really after consistency?
Right.
And as far as consistency goes,
That kind of fits under find a way to resolve.
Yes.
Yeah, I just put that in there.
It's just, in my opinion, I think we should start the meeting, the workshop, giving them a rundown on how we develop our policies. Showing them, like with the book reconsideration policy, our collection development policy, we started revising in March. We did it all the way through September. These are all of the places that we looked at for information. Hey, at the book challenge meeting, you guys had questions about minors and their access to materials. You had questions about our selection policy and how many things need to be, how many boxes need to be checked. We went through, we heard what you said. We went through, we did research, we discussed stuff with attorney, we looked at case law, and this is where we landed. This is all the research that we did for 6 months. And we brought this information to you. And I feel like the only thing I heard was that they were no longer over the book challenges, which was a decision that was made with advice by legal and also to avoid a city lawsuit.
Right.
and
No other library in the state of Washington has their things go to the city council,
Well, I'm not so sure that's
their book
accurate.
challenges.
I'm not sure that's accurate. I've looked at some others, and I think there are some other city councils that have given themselves, I don't know, I can't remember which one, but I was on the RCW site and there was a bunch of them, and I think not just a bunch of different libraries. Yeah, have you been, I mean, did you get that information from the Washington State Library Association?
Yeah.
Okay.
The advice is that things with the book challenge should not go to a city council.
Well, I know that's the advice.
Yeah.
But I mean about the other, any other cities.
They might have their policies reviewed by the council,
Right.
like Kelso,
Mhm.
the city of Kelso, which is the one that I looked up today.
Kelso and Fort Townsend.
Yes, they are an advisory board.
Right.
But the city of Fort Townsend, I talked to the librarian today, their book challenges do not go to the city council.
Oh, that's good.
Because
That's
that
good.
can lead
That's
to
good to know.
lawsuits.
separate issues, yeah,
Right.
oversight of policies versus.
Right,
Yeah.
that's two separate things. Right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for the clarification.
And for the consistency on, because the point was brought up with the inconsistency, the policies were always brought to us for review and approval and discussion. The last time the library policies were brought forward to the city council was in 2019. And that was a general overview. That year, they did 2 to 3 policies a month. And it was one line in the meeting minutes, and I sent an email with the transcript. It was, we're reviewing all the policies, we're removing the ones that don't apply, we're changing the ones that need to be updated. We're going through 2 to 3 a month. It was not, the policies were not brought forward to city council for approval, for a workshop, for review, for anything. The city council didn't even ask what policies. So I don't know where this information or misunderstanding came from, that it
Well,
has
we don't-
always come
well,
forward
we
to
don't
the city
know.
council.
We don't know before 19. We don't know before 2019 if they were brought forward or not.
Well,
That's.
unless you went to,
No, and
unless you sat in on a lot of meetings, of which I did. Yeah, and listened to a lot of reports. And I cannot think of one time where a library report had to be voted on for approval, when there was a policy on that report that I sat in out there over the last 7 years. So before that, I can't comment, but I only can comment on what I observed while I was attending. I attended a bunch of them. I have attended a bunch of them over the course of the.
I found some from 2015, when they did some revisions in 2015 after the ordinance was updated. And there was nothing in the minutes that said that they were going to the city council. It was just the board voting on all of the policies. That was January 2015.
I mean, then we can go back that far, not just relying on the 2019.
Okay, so can I get us back on setting talking points, so under finding a way to resolve, that's first goal, right?
Mhm.
So I think finding a way to resolve is a review of how we are chose to go about the whole thing. Jandy's review would be good. And I'd like to assign each, one or two people to address the council on that, so we're not all, coming in on the same time. So, Jandy, would you like to give that overview to the board, or the council?
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be our first talking point, is that Jandy will give an overview of the
Library
Or-
policy process.
library,
How we establish policy.
how we establish, thank you, Bob, how we establish policy, perfect wording.
Establish / revise.
Yeah,
What is it, 17 policies within?
yeah, how we establish / revise policy.
And Jan, are you gonna just focus on the collection development policy? Or all policy, like the general,
Good question.
the general format for revising policies?
I think I would make general and then give examples,
Okay.
Can
like
we give,
the collection development policy.
I think that's a
Yes.
good example, because that's 6 months worth. of-
right, I think that's it, I think what you just said, you want to give the process for the collection review policy.
Yeah, I'm happy to focus on that policy.
Yeah, so you give them the generally how we go about it. Because you address the challenges with the policy, you bring those challenges to the board. I mean, those are the kinds of things, the board assesses, the information you've given to us, and then we have questions, we do the back and forth, and we say, well, can you change this, you change that wording or whatever, then it comes back to us for a final approval. That's basically how policies are.
And assignments are made to the board.
Right.
With our collection development policy, I had things that Teresa was researching with RCWs.
Right.
Things that Shauna was researching
Exactly.
with the case law.
Yeah. So that's all
It's a
things that.
very collaborative thing.
Right, so we have to make sure that that's all said when we,
And it
go
was
through.
put, just because of statements that were made that, it was our interpretation of the city ordinance, I think it's important that you also state that it was after working with the city attorney.
I had 3 meetings with the city.
Yeah. So I think we need
Point
to
that out,
include that
yes.
on the,
So, and what I'm kind of hearing, I'm just trying to make sure we're all saying the same thing. So Candy talks about how we establish policies
and then specifically work for
and,
that.
and maybe makes some reference to the fact that there's 17 ranging from, library hours or whatever to whatever, I can't remember all of them.
Yeah,
Like how many days you can check out a book versus, and then, for example, this is how we got to
the
this collection specific policy that we presented to you in October, and then she can go through all that. And so that's kind of like process, quick overview of how many policies there are, and then this one, which has caused all the trouble.
Now, am I getting too in the weeds too, if she states that the 6 months that we worked on the collection development policy were publicly posted in advance on the city website and only attended by 1 city council member? Because I think it's important, because they had made statements in the past that we had done this in secret.
well, they said they were surprised. Yeah.
So I think it's important to know, I mean, obviously 1 council member attended, they don't have to.
Well, first of all, I think this, I'm giving my opinion, Teresa, I think we just want to present facts to begin with, and then if we need to interject with things like that, I don't think we want to get into this, that, back and forth, though, because we say that, they're gonna say, no, I'm like, a few council members all said, no, we asked for updates. And I'm going, see, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into that. I would rather just stay focused on, unless unless something comes where we need to go down that. path.
There's an easy way around that, is just to say, the policy process is, is always done within our monthly public board of trustees meeting.
Right,
Yeah, because we
Okay,
do
perfect.
review.
perfect.
Ideally, I feel like by giving a clear understanding of the process that we go through with all of our policies, it shows the council that we are a competent board. We
Mhm.
spend a lot of time on these. We consult legal. We do these in public meetings where citizens can comment. And then we make a decision. It's not just something that we do in 5 minutes. We spent 6 months on this policy. We're not taking these things lightly. I think you can trust us to do our job and you don't need to revise the ordinance.
Which I pointed out in my public comments after that meeting, but maybe I was a little too emotional when I said that. I was kind of forceful. No, I don't get really emotional, but I got a little.
Do we want to put it, I did list, the, under why we revised the policy, I had put a bullet point about Shauna and, Jandy mentioning that the last, policy review and presentation to council was completed in 2019. And then prior to that was January 2015. Do we want to let them know that? Or
I don't
is
think
that
it's
an important
necessary.
point? Okay.
That's just something to have that
Yeah,
if they come back and say you always
It's,
presented these.
it's not perfect, because I know we're revising our customer service policy, which I had flagged for us to do because it was updated, I think, in 2017 or 2018, so.
Can I ask, either Shauna or Teresa, can you also be a part of that, bullet point talking with the council to help Jandy? She's not she's just not by herself there talking to.
well, I mean, we're all,
Yeah, but I just want, you know,
I think
you guys can,
One person takes the lead.
yeah, and you guys can weigh in.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be our first bullet point on one way to resolve it. I also think another way to resolve it is that we need to give them an opportunity to present their reasoning and why they want to reword the policy. And I think that should be a talking point. I don't know if it should be the next one, but I think it needs
or
to be
it might be
on,
the first one.
or it could be the first one. But
I
I,
would just say, in my opinion, it would be, this is how we establish and revise policies.
Yeah.
Hit all of our points. What concerns do you have about policies? And us having that purview that we've had for 21 years.
This is sort of out of what we're talking about, but, and that brings up at the front. I want to make sure that as a board, we're protecting Jandy. Yeah. She was attacked at one of the meetings.
Oh, I agree.
Yes, she
Oh,
was.
yes, yeah.
And if she is the one that is sort of starting out the conversation and being the spokesperson, I don't want her to get into another situation where she's interrogated.
right,
We all saw the news article about the Post Falls Library Board meeting and an angry mob showing up and the police having to be called. And the other library in Idaho being threatened with defunding. I want to make sure that we're protecting Jandy.
I agree. That's why I would like to give them not an opportunity to ask questions at that point, but I'd like to give them an opportunity to explain after after Jandy and you guys chip in or anybody else about how what the process is and what the process was for this particular collection policy, like them to have an opportunity to say why they are choosing to change the authority over policies, especially after they hear that presentation. That would be my thought. I'll put it down in any order or any.
No, the problem we have, I agree 100%, Shauna. The problem we have is I don't think there's any prescribed flow or format for a workshop. So we're going to get whoever's talking, we're going to get questions or we're going to get, some pushback. So I like the idea of saying, okay, this is how we get to policies. We don't see, and I think maybe one of us has to say, we don't see that, you know, any changes required to that, given all of the, you know, myriad of things we have to look at in running a library. So why do you believe, and lead it that way,
Okay,
why do you believe that there needs to be a change
And
to how policies are created and approved?
yeah, is there even an agenda for this?
Well,
meeting?
that's what we're doing. we're setting the talking points. That's why
They
I'm,
don't have to accept it.
no, they don't, but the mayor is the one in charge. I've already arranged with the mayor that she's agreed that we should have talking points. So we can give the talking points. They're certainly willing to, have an option to add to. I don't think they should be given the option to delete our talking points.
Yeah.
But, and maybe those talking points, we have talking points, and then that's the discussion I would hope, if I'm not there, you could have with the mayor, is that they can put together their talking points if they want to prior to the meeting. And then if we need to negotiate at the very beginning, which talking points, you know, someone doesn't want to go down, then we can have that discussion before we even start.
You
That's the
know,
way I look at it.
in the workshop, when they were deciding to vote whether or not to move this forward, but we did, that was the surprise, like. And didn't they say that we're doing this because the library, we have the last say in every other department in the city, and that's why we're doing this, because this is the only department we don't have.
Yeah.
So if we ask them, you know, why are you doing this? That's why they're doing it.
We'll get that answer again, but I want them to say it in our meeting again.
Well, they were also told in that, because I took really good notes in that workshop. They were also told that they don't control Howard Commissioner of the Police Department.
Right,
Um,
but that's by RCW for the police department.
But technically RCW requires that library boards be independent as well,
Right,
regardless of 35A, regardless of Code City versus Charter City versus, you know, anything else. That's the reason they paralleled RCW 2710, you know, in setting up the ordinance when they did it. And that ordinance, you know, you cannot, and again, I'm not a lawyer, there's a lot of more people around there, but, you know, you cannot just say because there's confusion in the law, we can do whatever the heck we want to, although 35A gives them that right. So, you know, it's like, they're interpreting the state law for purposes of the city of Liberty Lake law.
yeah, I've looked up trustee, definition of a trustee versus commissioner on several occasions. And we're a governing body. That's a big difference between a commission or a commission. A commission is not a governing body, and we are. And we are by RCW, a governing body. Also the city has the right, the council, the legislative body has the right to legislate their law regarding the library, because we are a municipal library. We're not a library district. So they have the right to do what they're doing. But do I agree with what they're doing? No.
And I think one of the points we need to make in the discussion, so we do the, you know, this is how we determine policies, this is all the process we went through. Why do you think it needs to change? I think one of the answer I've repeatedly heard from them is because we're the elected officials, and so we are the ones that need to be accountable for it. And if the library board does something, it's going to eventually come back to us. And my counter to that argument is that, and this was in our meetings, is by not having them have oversight over the policies, we are protecting the city from lawsuit. We are looking out for the city because the library board, all the members here have said that they stand for the freedom to read, and that they stand for all of the underlying statements that we've agreed to should be in our policies and in our circulation, or not the circulation, the correct,
Library rules, right?
Library
Right.
collection.
Freedom to read, the freedom to view, the intellectual freedom, alias intellectual freedom policy.
And because we believe in those policies and have reconfirmed that in voting on the policies that we do have for our collection policy, we are not likely to vote to ban a book based on political views. If it goes to the city council, they are not committed to those same policies. And it is more likely that there will be political persuasion involved in decisions at that level, which will lead to a lawsuit.
Which I think that goes back to highlighting the fact that we spent 6 months reviewing case law and working with the city attorney specifically to develop a policy that was so robust and outside of the influence of political opinion and personal feelings. And I think then it will stand up to a lawsuit if that's the case.
And it's not just that policy, our meeting room policy also upholds the First Amendment, which says that everyone has the right to assemble and anyone can use our meeting room, regardless of their political beliefs, their sexual orientation, any of those things. If our meeting room policy was not written in the way it was, and we refuse to let a group use the room, they could also sue us for something like that. So that's why our meeting room policy is set up the way it is. Our computer use policy and the access that we have for that anyone can use our computers. If we were restricting to students or something like that, that's something that also could come back to us. So it's not just our collection development policy, it's
Yeah, there's a key word in our library, it's called the Liberty Lake Municipal Public Library. I mean, public, it means that we are there for all of the citizens within our realm.
yes,
And so.
as long as a patron is behaving appropriately, as long as a group who's meeting in our room is behaving appropriately and not, they can use our room. So it's not just the collection development policy.
Okay, so
We need to get back.
we need to get, yeah, what's our next talking point? What did you say, Bob? Was under how do we resolve?
Well, you find a way to resolve the matter with
Right.
our first talking point or our first goal.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then all of these are bullet points for that.
right.
That's correct.
All of those things. So Jandy going through the policy review,
That's
how we got to this policy. You know, how, that's one bullet, I guess, is the whole policy.
the whole policy stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Then the second one is
What concerns does council have regarding the policy?
what concerns do they have?
Why does council want to change the ordinance over the authority of the board? And then I listed the RCW, but I was wondering if Bob would feel comfortable it as a counterpoint, if they give us their statement about, well, we have oversight over everybody but the police. Do you feel comfortable with referencing that or no?
I mean, I think if we get into, my only concern is everything I've looked at, I've only looked at the library things that they keep throwing up. My only concern is if we get into that, we're going down a rabbit hole of 2710. A says this, 35,
Yeah.
B says this. I think, and the only thing I think we could say to respond to that is, we recognize, as does the city attorney, that the ordinance, that the laws, the RCWs, are conflicting and purposely vague. And we recognize that the council has the authority to interpret them or establish, laws for the city of Liberty Lake. Because they're the elected body. We'll give you that. We're not arguing that, because I don't think we can argue that 2710, says they're wrong.
Yeah,
That's something, unless we go and sue them at some point, which we can't do because we're, board of, the city. But I'm just saying, unless somebody sues them over that, you can't argue that point. It's just too convoluted. I mean, they just, in the last council meeting, came to a tie on a law that was passed in Olympia that all cities had to agree to have it's something to do with recycling and a green, recycling thing. And it tied 3-3. And because it was an ordinance that they were supposed to approve to go along with this law, the tie cannot be broken by a mayor when it's an ordinance. If it was a resolution or something, I guess it could be, but because of
That's
that,
fine.
they voted it down. I mean, that means they voted it down, which meant the city council just went against the state law, which did not set well with one of the councilmen. So that's my concern about that, Teresa.
This guy?
So then I'm wondering,
Last meeting?
would it be better then to utilize what Shauna had stated earlier, that by the board having, by the city not having final oversight of all of our policies, it protects them from potential lawsuits, because then we hold the liability.
Well, that's not the case, though.
No,
That, you know, that they
No, 'cause they'll
The
say that,
city-
so-
is the one that would be liable if there was a problem. And they brought that up, and that's why they want the oversight. We changed the policy of appealing to the city council to protect the city from lawsuit. By bringing politics out of it. But that's different from saying who has liability.
Did we protect the city or did we protect the city council?
The city, because
city.
the city is the one that would be sued, not the city council.
The council would, okay, well, but in that one we looked at in Wichita,
Yes,
It's the city.
the
the city.
city manager and the city and the,
Well, you can add anybody. to
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
They just added names to the.
right, I'm just trying to clear that up. So we're doing it to protect the city. It doesn't mean ultimately anybody can sue the city for anything. they
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
So we're not saving them liability, we're protecting them from frivolous loss.
Well, it wouldn't be a frivolous lawsuit. If they voted to be on a book and somebody sued them, that would be a lawsuit with merit.
We're protecting them from First Amendment laws,
Yes.
yes.
which are federal lawsuits, not. Okay. That makes sense, Teresa?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to reword that, sorry.
We're adhering to the Freedom to Read Act, the ALA guidances, and all the things that guide libraries and the First Amendment for in terms of our decision making.
Yes, because the Library Bill of Rights was developed after World War II in American librarians witnessing burning of books in Hitler's Germany, etc. They said politics and books shouldn't mix, and so they developed the Library Bill of Rights that kind of keeps and intellectual freedom keeps the politics out of the books.
And that's just by basing our policy on all of those recommended and longstanding interpretations of a policy and the fairness of a policy. We are protecting the city
Yeah.
and we're protecting the library.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. We're not protecting the council.
Okay, so
So that's number 2 in there.
that's our second bullet point under there. Is that right, Teresa? You've got a lot of things. That you're gonna keep track of all those things, Teresa?
Section A, yes,
Well,
so what we have.
I really want to be able to delineate this for the mayor.
The first bullet point I have is find a way to resolve the matter. And then under that section, I have, if the goal is consistency across all agencies where they're not reviewing all ordinance, just the library. Then I have another bullet point that says how we went about revising the policy, and then that's where we talk about overall policy review. And then specifically, these are all some bullet points, section B, specifically the collection policy development that we did for 6 months. And then we have concerns by the council regarding the policies. And then we have another that says, why does council want to change the ordinance with authority of the board? And then in that, we answered why we changed the appropriate consideration policy for equity.
I'd
So
like,
we have 3 bullet points and 3 subsections.
is why do they want to change the why do they, I guess it's two separate things. You say why, what questions they have about our policy process,
Mhm.
about the policies.
That's a separate question.
That's a separate question. Then why do they want to change the ordinance, which is the subset of that, or not a subset, but it's the follow on. If you say, we understand how the policies are set and we don't have any, we have this problem, this problem, this problem. Then the next question is that why you want to change it? Or if they say, no, we don't have any problem with the policies, we don't want to set the policies, then why do you want to change it? That's kind of the flow. Seeing? And that's all kind of under the, is that under the first goal or is that under the
That's under
second
the
goal?
first one.
That's under the first goal, find a way to resolve. I'm trying to think if that'll help us find a way to resolve.
Just to me, the main talking first, the goals and stuff is kind of confusing, but I would just say for me, the first talking point is just how we establish and revise policy.
Right, that is the
And
first
then,
one.
okay, and then, asking them further questions that they have about the policy.
The concerns that they have about how we go about doing that.
And then we have, okay, we're here because you want to change the ordinance. If you want to change the ordinance to be inconsistent with other departments, why are we not consulting those departments' ordinances and just adding them?
No, I would rather not do that. Here's what I would rather do is after we ask for their concerns, I would ask them, given the information we've given you about how we go about our policy making, why have you chosen to rewrite or add, to amend the policy?
Or just
Amend the
read-
To amend the ordinance to give you complete oversight of all policies. Having you, now that you know the whole process and how we go about that. Maybe they'll come back with something like, oh man, we didn't know all that, maybe we should reconsider, who knows?
Why, where do you want me to put the, why we changed the book consideration policy? Do we even want to touch on that? If we're reviewing all,
Why,
I'm, in my mind, I would include that in the
Yeah.
collection development policy overview.
so I knew that.
I think we're confusing ourselves. I think we have to kind of just remember our goals
Mhm.
are what we keep in mind,
Mhm.
but our goals are not our talking points.
Yes.
right.
Okay.
So finding a way to resolve is not the talking point.
That's not gonna be on the list. That's just.
No, that's
trying to
not
find
on
a
the
way.
list, that's
Okay.
just our goal.
Yeah, I was
The talking point, the very first talking point is the council or the overview of how we go about making policy. How policy is changed and revised and, the process. Right, and then examples of the process, which is the book collection policy. And the book challenge policy, which is part of that collection, the whole collection thing. That would be an example.
Collection development policy.
Yeah, collection development policies, okay? And then,
That's the first part.
that's the first talking point. Second talking point is, we're gonna ask them if they have any concerns or questions about how we go about making policy. That's the second talking point, and there could be whatever happens there. And then the third talking point is given your understanding of our procedures and our methods for revising policy, could you give us your reason for changing the ordinance to give you complete oversight? That's how I would go.
You wanted to say, why do you want to change the ordinance?
You can say that too.
I'm just,
Yeah, I don't care about having,
No, I'm just-
I'm good with anything there, just as
Well,
long as we give them an opportunity to
I would
explain
say-
why they're.
Given the information that we have given you today with our process for developing policies, would you reconsider changing the ordinance now that you understand the process and everything that goes into it? We feel that it's robust enough. And maybe now that you understand each of the steps, you'll agree.
I like that.
That's good. I'm good.
Or, I mean, I mean, would simplify it more.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I think that's
Does
good.
this change your view about?
Purpose.
Does this change your view about the ordinance as it stands?
There you go. That would be the third talking point. And then we can have a discussion around that. I think that's all we need for the first goal. Everybody okay with that? Anybody have anything else they are just gotta have underneath that one? Okay.
I'm a sales guy, I'm always about being direct.
Yeah.
Ask for the order.
There you
That's
go.
what Jenny's doing. too.
Okay, so then our other,
I get it. I'm just trying, remember, we're trying to be, I don't wanna put, the problem, I don't wanna put them on the defensive. I mean, that doesn't get us anywhere. Like I said, it's about dialogue and I'm trying to make sure that we keep it open to dialogue.
I like ending with that question. You have questions and then you say, okay, now that you understand this,
But,
you know, do we need to have more discussion?
right, do we need to go any further? You know, then if it ends there, woo-hoo. If it doesn't.
so my
well, then-
question is, if for some reason they have this like epiphany, and then all of a sudden they've decided, no, I like the ordinance the way it is. But on the agenda, the first read of the new ordinance is the first topic. So
They would amend the
they
agenda.
just.
They can amend the agenda at the beginning of the meeting.
Before the regular.
So.
Yeah.
If they have an epiphany, and then the meeting starts and no one moves to amend the agenda, and it stays as the first reading, we are to assume that they're gonna continue forward with changing the ordinance.
Public comment is after.
Yeah.
They would amend the ordinance, the agenda,
Agenda, yeah.
And if that doesn't take place, then
and we
would
can
assume that-
stand up for.
Okay, and then that goes to our second goal of if the ordinance is changed, what does that look like going forward? In which case we would then reach out after Tuesday to the mayor to talk about having another workshop to discuss what the day-to-day will look like.
I think we need to address that. I mean, we only have an hour. But,
It'll be less than that, I can tell you. Yeah, it's only gonna be about 45 minutes.
Do we want to then, here's my question, do we want to inform them of what we do in our 3-hour, once-a-month meeting and what Jandy does on a day-to-day basis that then would become their responsibility to approve if they change the ordinance?
we already know that.
My personal opinion won't make any difference.
Yeah.
I think these were decisions that they made without even considering that or even worried about that. That's not their purpose. We've already talked about it and Tim brought it up already, the morality versus the county.
No, what I want them to realize.
Oh, I know what you want them to realize. I'm just saying, I don't think that, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't know if it would affect them to know that it would add an hour to their meeting time to go over all the policies that we approve if we need their approval for this.
Right.
Well, really, if this ordinance passes, then they don't really need a board of trustees.
Right.
Legally, they have
Oh,
to have
yeah.
one.
Legally, they have to have one, but then we can just gather once a month and look at each other and take it, but I'm just kidding.
I mean,
No, the city of
I'm just kidding.
the city of Tulsa, who has an advisory board,
They meet once a quarter.
So,
and so then they would just.
That's just them. We can.
right.
Every
I
city is different.
mean, we have a lot of more responsibility, and I think we've shown a lot of things in terms of our presentation about the state of the library and making clear that we need a new library, that we made progress there, and there's a lot of progress to be done, a lot more to be done to make more progress in that regard.
But if
So,
everything we do has to be approved by them, then that just seems like,
they'll have to approve design, they'll have to weigh in, and, I mean, they'll have to approve, because usually what would happen in a board situation with that design of the library and everything would be, Jandy would then come with ideas about how the library would look. I would hope that we would all attend different types of things that, and even tour some different buildings, and there would be a back and forth that would happen with that. And presentation of the design and all that kind of stuff, we would approve, and then we bring it to the
We
board.
talked about
But they would have to prove that because they're funding it.
Well, and
Yeah, with Trailhead, they're approving everything.
well, we also discussed.
That's a
having
different thing.
A community survey to determine what needs the community would like to see in the new library, and we talked about having the current library staff, weigh in on that, so there's a lot to be.
Community interest groups.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's my question though, is after we've gone through the bullet point of, given this information, do you want to continue moving forward with the ordinance change? Do we then ask them, what is that gonna look like for us?
Yeah, and that was what I was going to, I expect that nothing we say is going to change anybody's minds.
Right.
Yeah.
So step 2 is, we don't believe that just adding with the approval of the city council is going to fix this issue. And we think that more, if you're going to continue to move forward with this ordinance change, there needs to be additional discussion about what those changes are. Because the change you're proposing doesn't even encompass approval of policies. It is bylaws, rules, and regulations.
So, Shauna, if the third bullet point of our first goal is they go ahead and said they want to move forward with the policy amendment. Do you want to spearhead that?
Yeah.
That discussion?
It's a decision tree. Yes,
Yeah.
we go one way, no.
Yeah.
Okay, then by your own attorney's, admission in a recent meeting, you need more language than 5 words.
Right.
Well, I don't know that we should use that argument because those 5 words were Sean's recommendation.
They were,
They
okay,
were.
I think that's.
Yeah, I think it's in the meeting.
Yeah, in the meeting, he said, well, we could just add by the approval of the city council.
But then I think in another meeting, it was brought up that didn't suffice, so there is a little bit of.
Yes, there is some
Yeah.
contention between.
The words, I mean, he said in November 1st, which was the meeting where it all began. He said in November 1st that it's too general.
Yeah.
Just adding those words is too general.
Yeah.
But then
So,
he must have turned
But
around.
then that's the way it's being worded, because
Yeah.
that's the amendment that was brought forth by Councilman Cargill. So they're not gonna change that until it goes through a first read and there's discussion about it. And then they wanna reevaluate how they word them, which could happen in the first reading, and there's
Yeah.
discussion and there's also citizen input.
so I think we need to also be prepared with if they are going to have oversight of the policies, if they're going to move forward with the change in the ordinance, so that they have oversight of the policies, where is the right place for that in the ordinance, and what are the right words for that? Because what's currently proposed is not, it's really ambiguous, it's really generic, and it does not cover what they want it to cover, what
And-
they've said they want to.
Like I said, later, the library has, the board has authority to make any kind of contracts they want with any other library.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, up here, you need subject to city council approval, but down here you don't.
Yeah, no,
So-
I wouldn't,
Yeah.
because that's not what they're proposing,
No.
and they wouldn't have oversight of policies, because those aren't rules and regulations,
No, that's
so it
different.
doesn't even fix what they want it to fix.
No.
Well, that was the
Because-
one thought I had was, do we just say to them, if you're trying just to fix oversight over the reconsideration?
Or policies in general.
Yeah,
I would say policies in
or
general.
policies in general, then do you wanna, do you wanna specify that it is exclusively policies and nothing else? I don't know how to,
Yeah.
I mean, but that's where you're going. with it.
Yes.
That's, I mean, because I even thought about just saying, do you wanna just add, clause that says any policy approved by the board would be, presented to council for input. I mean, you could go down a wishy-washy path.
So here's what I hear. If there's no movement with the goal and the bullet points that we have there, then the next bullet point is to have Shauna address the concern with the current wording and how that affects the ordinance, the issuance of the ordinance and, the functioning of the library and the library board.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what I have is, under the bullet point that says, given the information you have given, does the council still want to change the ordinance? And then there's a subheading under that that says, if the ordinance is changed, what does that look like going forward? How will the ordinance change affect day-to-day business of the library? If the city council continues with the ordinance change, we would like to have a further workshop to discuss what that changes would look like. And then there's another bullet point that says, what is the language and where is the placement of the verbiage in the ordinance?
Okay, so I would like to add one other thing. If it comes down to that, and I would like your input and, actually, I'm asking for your support on this. And that is if the council chooses to move forward with this amendment, I would like to be given the permission to say to them that I am requesting that the city council and the city produce a mass mailing to the community, since they say they're representing the community, surveying the community and their feelings on this particular change to the ordinance before they move forward with the ordinance, wait for the return from that poll. To me, I think it's pretty important that they are representing the citizenry of our city, that they're making if they choose to move forward, given all the citizen comments and all the comments that are, saying we don't support this, and they ask to go forward with it anyway, I won't, without your support and saying that it's okay. I would like to request that the city and they, produce a mass flyer to the community engagement. People are asking all the time for total community engagement, not just from a few. They want all of them. So this will give the entire city constituency an opportunity to weigh in on this particular ordinance. It affects them. The whole thing affects them and their library. So
I just think that their response to that is that's what citizen comment is for. They can do it in any public meeting, and we're doing this ordinance, and there's even specific citizen comment in the ordinance.
okay, I get it.
So I just think that's what their response is.
Okay, well, they can say that, but I would like to have the opportunity to put that to them, if that's okay. I mean, I will not say a word if that's your decision, but I really believe if they're gonna stick on this issue and stick to this thing, they need to hear from the people they represent, and they need to hear from everybody, not just the few that come to sit out there. They need to hear from them. That's my opinion. That's the way.
My opinion on that is there's already multiple venues for citizen comment and input, and a mailing to the whole city, where you're not really going to get much response, honestly. I mean, look at how many people vote, and that's mail-in. It's a little fiscally irresponsible because of the funds that would be required for that.
Okay.
I just think if they are trying to move forward, our ask should be for an additional joint workshop.
Yeah.
Where we can,
Or a community workshop.
yes, and not for a mailer.
Well, and my thought too, this goes back to my thought about us developing a statement from the board about what's going on, specifically because we are still getting requests from the Inlander and other news outlets for a response or an interview. I think that we need to develop, if this Tuesday goes, that they're going to continue forward with the ordinance change, that we maybe need to have a special meeting or a conversation about putting together a board statement that can then be given out to the community through media outlets, social media, all of those things, so that they could see, look, this is what the library did for 6 months, and this is how this is developed, and the efforts that we've taken. Because my other thought is that those people are up for reelection in November, and if the community understands what's happening,
Maybe somebody else.
that's the
will
result.
I
Run.
think,
I don't think you're gonna find 4 people to run.
But at least it would explain to the community what's happening
well,
versus what's being said.
I would only caution. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Teresa, and I thought about it a lot after studying, you know. I would use that as, that's after we lose.
No, that's what I mean, like
I
after the
mean,
big.
and I think maybe we just, and that is, I wouldn't necessarily, you know. Nobody's gonna read a really long statement, we just, you know, the board of trustees of the library is disappointed in the outcome of
The new ordinance,
the,
one
you
nineteen
know,
C.
the new ordinance and feels that, you know, and while we agree, I mean, we can wordsmith it all. we
Yeah,
want as a
that's
group, but I mean, that we feel that, you know, it's not, you know, it's not the right way to go, and all of the things we did, you know, before this, you know, mean that, the council has gone their own way, which they can, and then kind of just leave it at
Well,
that.
yeah, but I mean, this is for the like post,
Yeah.
after they've already, we're still moving ahead.
Otherwise, we're gonna get into dueling
I think
Yeah.
that's a
Facebook
separate
pages.
Yeah.
To
that's-
establish.
for us
The
to
right
send.
statement.
Can I come back to the? I want to drag it out.
Oh, we need a motion to extend the meeting.
Okay,
It's posted till 6:30 and it's 6:28.
I move that we extend the meeting by 30 minutes.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So if they say no, it doesn't change their stance, then, you know, we say, okay, we have concerns with the amendment wording. Where does it go? What are the right words? And the comment was that we're asking for another workshop. You want to just say that we're asking for another opportunity to provide input about the actual wording of the ordinance? Because again, we're before the meeting where if they want to take the ordinance off the table, they have to make a, you know, somebody has to make a motion in the meeting reviewing the agenda. So do we want to say instead of we want another workshop? Because I could see somebody saying, well, this workshop, you didn't get your answer, you just want to keep having workshops. I don't know, I'm just throwing that.
We're not gonna get another workshop.
So then I think you have to say we want another opportunity for input from the board and other interested parties.
I'll just say, I believe that there are some council members that probably didn't want to have this particular, they just want to move forward without any more comments or
Okay.
to do. So,
Then you just say we have concerns about the amendment and the wording. And
yeah,
would hope that council and the city attorney take those concerns into.
I agree.
Yes.
I would think that that would be our next, so our bullet point is Sean is going to address
Like
the,
how the work is problematic.
yeah, the-
So do we have suggestions
and
of
then,
how we would reword it so that if their stated purpose is still to have oversight over policy, and those are those 17 policies that are on the website, because that's what they've mentioned time and time again, is that they want oversight over policy. Do we propose suggested language instead?
No.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I say we
My only
don't.
suggested
don't-
language is apparently already part of the ordinance. Did the board follow their policies?
I would rather not, weigh in on giving them, that's my opinion. I just say, I hope we don't have to go to this plan right here that we're talking about. I hope that better minds prevail, and they will really reconsider the whole idea of doing this. You know, and I guess maybe it's a good idea for us also to just reinforce that boards were made up with the intention of separating the library from the political process of books and what goes in the library and the challenges that all go with it. So,
So,
so can we go ahead, Jen?
so how I'm hearing our bullet points is how we establish and revise
I
policy.
was just gonna go ahead.
Sorry, and then asking them what questions they have. And then saying, after they're understanding our policy process, would you consider changing the ordinance? Then if we have to go to plan B, it's Shauna establishes how the current wording is problematic.
And then, and ordinance changes, what does that look like for all of them?
Which is part of why it's problematic. We don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's the last one. Can you say it one more time?
If the ordinance is changed, what does that look like going forward? Okay.
Okay, so one thing I have left, and I just want to make sure we're prepared for this because if it comes up, I don't plan on bringing it up. How do we, or how should we address, because there have been some inaccurate comments made that are in a format that a lot of people can read. And I think it's really important to set the record straight on that in a public way so that the people who are saying, oh yeah, thanks for clarification on that, when the clarification is not accurate.
Yeah.
I think there should be a way to address that without,
I brought that up with the mayor separately and pointed out the comments that I was seeing, that I was seeing on a community forum that is run by another city council member.
Right.
And I made comments in that the Liberty Lake Community Forum, and they've been deleted.
Yeah.
And I said that also, and the mayor's reply was that is part of what she would like to address when dealing with the agenda item that is review of social media use policy. So that
so we don't need to say
I
anything.
don't know, we can in public comments,
Okay.
say we have concern. I think that's where.
Save it for citizen comments.
I think it
Got
would
it.
be addressed in citizen comments versus
Well, and my
the
hope,
library board.
And very tactfully.
my
Yes.
hope with, bringing up having a joint board statement that we issue out after this moves forward, was to address those mischaracterizations too, because that can be shared through the same social media outlet. And that can be shared through the news outlets that are covering this, and
They have kicked the review of the social media code of ethics
Every month.
down the road every month since it was presented by Councilmember Kurtz, I think back in September or October of 2021.
So is that over a year,
yeah.
a year and a half?
It's been a while.
Okay, so
Well, I'm gonna make citizen comment.
I would just say,
Thank you.
this is these talking points are focused here. And if it sounds like they're gonna address that in the social media policy, which is later.
And
It's
we'll
just-
know if it's.
We only have an hour.
Right,
The
no,
second meeting can. go
right,
as
that's-
many hours as they want.
yeah, I brought it up for you because it needs to be addressed. I was asking where would be the right place for us to make that. And I agree, not in our workshop with the council. We want to stay focused on the ordinance. But I think I appreciate that. Thank you.
Included everything that you would like to see included.
Yes,
Okay, I'm just checking in with you and.
Good, thank you for doing that. Do we, Bob?
Bob,
I'm concerned about, especially before, whether they kick the social media thing down, I'm concerned about us looking like in the citizen comments, and this is just my personal opinion, so take it for what it's worth. I'm concerned that if we go back after them, after we've said we're not changing anything, and we've said we want further, we'd like to be part of further input. I think if at that point we try and address, the emotional outburst of one council member and his half-hearted apology in a council comment in a later meeting. Which he did, like the following meeting. Apologized for, his comments being taken the wrong way. I'm afraid we're playing into that, and I just don't know if this meeting is the right place to do that, coming on the heels of the workshop. That's,
So
Yeah,
later meetings,
well, the social media thing is not gonna go away, because I think the council needs to address it, and they keep saying they need to address it. I think like another meeting, they'll probably address that. And then that would be a place to say, this is why you need a social media policy, and you have a recommendation, but you need a policy. You're harping on us for policies. Okay? You really need a policy that says, doesn't just say it's discouraged from using non-city
That doesn't help.
websites. So that doesn't help. So I just don't know if it's the right time. And that's just my comment. You guys are all welcome to do what you want to do, but that's my concern. It's so close to us because we're assuming we're going to be shot down. Then saying, well, okay, but you lied, you violated the code of ethics, you did this, however nicely we put it. That's not how it's going to be,
That's not going to be.
Oh, gosh,
that
no,
way.
and so that's just my concern.
so maybe,
Well, we made it pretty clear in this meeting that those comments weren't appreciated or truthful. This is a public forum, and it's a place people can zoom into and listen if they feel they need to or want to. I'm hopeful that we can present a good case for not having the amendment go further, and I'm also hopeful that we will have some citizen input during the meeting this on the 21st as well, that will confirm and reinforce our concerns with the ordinance. So, yeah.
Maybe
that would be helpful.
I thought what you were saying, if this doesn't go in the direction that we want it to, and they do the first reading of the ordinance, are you guys okay with us doing a special meeting to develop a public statement that we want to do?
I kind of feel like we should wait until after the second reading, and because it's one of the things where they can revise and revise and revise. So I would wait until it's
Yeah.
passed.
Because you're gonna do it anyway.
I think we have to,
No.
any comments we make publicly, other than in the context of our meeting.
Yeah.
Any statements we make, I think need to be after the ordinance has been acted on, whatever final form it's acted on, because they have to take comments multiple times before that. They have to take comments during the ordinance discussion, as well as at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. So that's like 6 times over the next 2 meetings where they consider that, where
or
they're gonna
longer
get a lot
if
of
they,
feedback.
if they choose to take longer with ordinance.
Teresa,
So I thought about doing, sorry, I thought about doing a joint board public statement is it allows other people who may not be in the loop about what's going on, the opportunity to come to the second meeting to make a public comment. I don't know. 'Cause I don't know how
What
many people
audience
go to
would-
the city website and actually.
Yeah,
Not
what
very much.
audience would we be reaching
Yeah,
that wouldn't be
The people
reached
who
by
have-
the existing communications about the agenda and the other thing that's being talked about? I mean, but there are community members posting on the Liberty Lake
Yeah.
community page that, hey, the library ordinance is up for discussion, we need to participate in this. There are community members posting that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to stop any of us saying, hey, there's going to be, not making a position one way or the other, but just stating there will be discussions at the city council meeting on the library ordinance. If you want to have any input in this, you should attend
Or
or submit
a written.
Let's spend it,
comment.
written-
Just a
written
goal.
comment.
Yeah.
That there's an opportunity for citizen input,
Right.
that this is not finalized, there's an opportunity for city input. And I think it's been good that he's been the one, responding and saying that.
But we can make those comments, we can make those announcements about library issues coming up for discussion without making a point of view
Yeah.
Right.
comment. It
We're
can just
defending
be,
ourselves.
yeah,
Don't have to add an opinion, just have to add a statement.
I think because I've been on this roller coaster for the entirety of it, I'm kind of like, I feel like I want to have a statement saying, look, one of our council members, or one of our
Well, I get
board
it.
members left for possible defamation of business, so.
I get it, Teresa, having been from the very
Yeah.
beginning, you and I, and I had to, I had to bounce my first ideas off, because I come from, doggone it. This is just, it's gone south where it shouldn't have gone south, and we're in a point where we really shouldn't have to be. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's, in my mind, I'm sad about it, I really am. I'm just, that we're, in our community, this is where we're at, with our council. I mean, I just go, I hate to say it, I don't get it. I just don't get it, but that's where we're at. Could I ask you to read our goal first and see if we've done what we want to do? So our first goal is not anything we have to have a bullet point for. Let's remind everybody what it is, Will.
To go with that goal or just.
Just the goal and then the talking points, but the first one doesn't have a talking point. What's the first one? No, first one.
And then Paul-
Etiquette practice.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Let her finish it.
That's our first goal.
I'm not doing that in the one we sent to the mayor.
Well, okay, that's fine with me.
You should all know this.
No, that's fine. That's for us. That's for us. Yeah, so the goal for us to talk with, what's that one?
Find a way to resolve the matter. And in which, in that, under that goal, we will provide, talking about our general policy review and revision process, election policy, specifically, and then the concerns about the council have regarding policy. Sorry, I'm starting to check it. And then, given that information, would you move forward with changing the ordinance? And then the second goal was, if the ordinance is changed, what does that look like going forward? At which point we have
Sean.
Shauna
Okay.
talking about verbiage, language, placement, and ordinance, and then what does that look like for the day-to-day life?
All right.
Any comments on those? Go right ahead, Mr. Bob.
Do we want to, even though we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but
No,
either way, yes or no, this decision tree thing, either way, either answer, where they say, yes, this means we want to change our stance, or no, once we go to the next step, which in the no case is, okay, there's a problem with the wording, whatever. And then, it goes down to, if the ordinance changes, what does that look like for the library, is the last talking point. Do we want to then, as the final point, to say, thank you for the workshop, and we want to continue to work with the council going forward. I'm trying to not have to sit down, we gotta walk out and get water bottles and start throwing them at.
you
no,
are welcome to make that statement. Bob.
no, here's the deal.
No,
I mean,
that was-
I'm gonna say this, even though we're in a public forum, I have a hard time saying thank you to a body that we've asked on several occasions. And they have also said they wanted to, but had not made any move until we requested with a formal letter to have a meeting. I have a hard time thanking them for that.
And even then, they wanted to say no, and so the city administrators voted in
didn't hear that part. I wasn't privy to that, so, anyway, I'm appreciative that we're having the meeting, and that's a good thing. But,
Can we just say that up front?
you know,
Can we just say
yeah,
up front?
we'll just say, yeah, that's,
Thank you, thank you
that's the way we can just say it, yeah. Thanks,
At this point,
thanks for responding to our letter,
yeah,
and
then put it up front and then you're,
I'm good with that.
I'm just about
I'm good with that, I understand. Yeah.
trying to, keep us from killing each other.
I don't think we'll kill each other,
I'm just saying. Say, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of frustration on both sides.
Sure.
And I think we all know that, everybody that's gonna be sitting on either side of the table, and I think if we start, just say thank you, for this opportunity, and you have the talking points of what we're going to go over, and we appreciate the time.
Got it. I'm good with that. Any closing comment, Sean? Closing comment, Jim? Closing comments, Teresa?
Yeah, deadline to sign up to register if you want to run in the elections is meeting. I'm just- No, closing.
I would like you to all stay on the board.
But no closing comments, no.
So Mike, I guess my.
Closing comments, Jen? No, you don't get to, you're the director.
You know
on
what,
this
I'm gonna
stage.
email, I have it in a minute, I'm gonna email it to everybody tonight, and then if you, I know you're going out of town, but were you?
Well, if you give it to me, I'll initiate the communication with the mayor, and if it isn't resolved by the time I'm gonna defer to Sean. Is that
I guess
okay?
I'm just,
And I'll punt the ball this time, and then she can carry it.
yeah, I'm gonna see right
I guess I'm just confused on what talking points we're giving to the mayor, other than we're going to discuss what the library policy
now.
is.
I'll sign it.
No, our outline that we just put together, those are our talking points. That's what we're giving her.
Because the mayor's facilitating. the
She is the
meeting.
facilitator of the meeting, so she needs to have our talking points.
She wanted to be,
Okay, she won't know what all of them mean.
no, I
guess.
put.
No, she doesn't have to know.
Oh, I put details.
No, she doesn't have to know what it all means. She just know that this is our talking point, and I will tell her. And she agrees that I'm just telling her, when we get there, I'm trying to set the tone that we will stay on track and not be going all over the place. And so that's kind of, otherwise, we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve. I don't want to get into a whole bunch of other stuff. So. And I don't think they're gonna wanna add much more because, we're part of the talking points is giving them an opportunity to, respond and ask questions about how we go about making policies and then, give their point of view about why they wanna change the policy. So I think it, works out for both groups that way. Are you okay with that? Okay, I wanna make sure, because you'll be given that first, overview and stuff. Say.
This is a preparation meeting. It was a meeting that the point of our agenda was.
Are you about to prepare?
Do we need a motion to, I don't think we need a motion to say these are, we're sending this to the mayor.
No, I
I'm
don't,
just asking.
yeah, no, I don't think we need any procedural movement like that because we're not taking any action on anything in particular. So I think they're pretty good. I don't think the rules of order apply to that. Gosh, guys, I really appreciate you taking a Friday night to spend time doing this. I think it's better that we're prepared for whatever might come our way. And then, I don't know, things can still, as long as we discuss things that we're all kind of thinking the same thing, we can respond, accordingly and support each other if we, in any way we need to. All right. With that, our meeting is adjourned and have a good weekend.